Very well. So we're going to talk about output in two different time periods. Now, to introduce the discussion, again, I want to use a particular scenario. So let's continue to assume all the things we have been assuming about our business, right? So we have a production function for it, for barbecue sandwiches. And let's continue to assume the sandwich shop works in a competitive industry, so it has no control over the price. Furthermore, that you pay each cook that you hire $80 per day. But now, let's assume that their fixed costs, instead of being $100 per day, are $800 per day. So if you were keeping track of all these numbers, I encourage you to actually try to calculate the numbers on your own. If not, if you don't want to calculate it, try to think about what are those categories of costs that will change if your fixed costs change from 100 to 800. Well, I have calculated those for you here, and you notice that the only two things that change are your average fixed costs and then your profits. Nothing else changes in that equation. And your profits now are probably going to be negative regardless of how many cooks you hire. And your average fixed costs are going to be higher than they were before. Now at that point, my question to you is this: should you close your shop? Now you have to continue paying your fixed costs. You sign a loan and you have to continue to pay for that loan regardless if you open your store of your barbecue sandwich store or not. So your question is not really whether you're going to exit the industry, because you will have to pay your fixed costs. So your question is really, should you produce any sandwiches at all? Should you hire any cooks, or should you simply close your doors? Well, to answer that question, you just have to look at the numbers in the table, right? So when you produce 40 sandwiches, you lose $560. But if you produce and you hire 4 cooks and produce 135 sandwiches, you actually lose $40. You lose on both, but if you produce 40, if you produce 135 sandwiches, you lose a lot less. So clearly, in this situation, I would say that the best decision for you will be to open your store and sell some sandwiches, even though at the end of the day, you will actually be on the red. Now, that's not very obvious for everyone, because a lot of people will think that if you're having losses, automatically you have to close. But that's not the case, because you have to, if you open or you close, Mike or any store owner will still have to pay for your loans, or you have to pay for your rent for whatever the length of the contract. And we said that that period of time in which some of your costs you cannot get rid of, you have to pay them, we call that time the short run. Right? That is the short run. So what we're saying here is that in the short run, your decision is essentially not whether you're going to exit the industry and get rid of your fixed costs. Your decision is basically, I'm going to open the doors or I'm going to close. I'm going to hire, am I going to use my variable costs or not? Economists call that situation shut down or not. So for Mike, shut down simply means he doesn't open the store and he doesn't hire any cooks, and he doesn't have to pay them. And not shutting down or opening for Mike means that he hires his cooks, he sells sandwiches, and then he pays his fixed costs with whatever leftovers he has. And the rule that we're going to use, I'm going to explain this in a second to you, is that if the price you charge is less than the average variable cost, then you shut down. If not, you continue to operate even if you have losses. Let's see how that looks for Mike. See, for Mike, when the quantity is 40, Mike has $560 in losses. But when the quantity is 135, Mike actually have losses, but a lot less, have $40 in losses. So why are the losses a lot less than when he has 135 units sold? Well, think about the amount of revenue that he makes on that 135 units, right? So when he has 135 units, the revenue he makes is equal to the 135 units times the $8 that he charged, right? So that comes to about $1,080. Now he has to pay, out of that, he has to pay both the fixed costs and the variable costs. First, let's see the variable costs. Well, he has variable costs equal to 4 cooks that he has to hire, and he pays each of them $80. So he has variable costs equals to $320. So I have to pay that. And then if he has any money left over for that, and he does have any left over after he pays for that, he still has $760 left. Unfortunately, he has to pay $800 on fixed costs. So he has to use the $760 to pay for the fixed costs of $800. And at the end, he's going to be, the profits are going to be negative $40 in the hole, in the red. But if he had not opened the store, he would not have had the $760 to apply for the fixed costs. So at least he can pay for some of the fixed costs after he paid for the variable costs and reduce them to a little bit of, to 40 in terms of negative. But if he doesn't open the store, he doesn't make the $760 in revenue, and his losses are going to be a lot more. Therefore, in this situation, Mike should open. And the reason for that is because his revenue per unit, which is the price, is more than the variable cost per unit, which is the average variable cost. And if that's the case, then it makes sense for him, because in every sandwich he makes, if the average variable cost per sandwich is higher than the revenue per unit, which is the price, then he's making some revenue on every sandwich he sells, and he can apply that revenue to those fixed costs. He doesn't have enough to pay for all the fixed costs, but at least he has something to pay for those fixed costs. Now, if the average variable cost, if the cost per the variable input per sandwich was actually more than the price, then it wouldn't make sense for him to open, and it would be better off if he stayed closed. But in the short term, he should probably open the door, even if his fixed costs were $800. So what you have to remember is this rule for the short run. In the short run, if the price is less than your average variable cost, you should shut down. Don't open anything. Stay closed, and for a year or 2 years while you can get out, pay your loans, pay your rent, and go do something else or change something. But in the short term, you should probably open if the price is higher than your average variable cost. That's much different than the long run decision when you have actually no fixed costs and you can do pretty much anything you want. Let's look at that next.
Produced by OCE Atlas Digital Media at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.